Hey everyone, Tom Tucker here from the Academy for Professional Painting Contractors, back with another episode of From Ladder to Legacy, a podcast that delivers encouragement, advice, and motivation for painting contractors. Let's get going and bring in our co-host, the Academy's COO, Tara Riley, who's on the road today and coming to us live from the great state of Texas. Good morning, Tara.
I'm here visiting family and we're really enjoying it. So it's great to it's great to relocate every once in a while, especially when you can get to a nicer, warmer weather for a little bit. And our weather's probably a little better than Eric's experiencing now, our guest. So,
Well, you mentioned our guest, and he's someone that both you and I've known for quite some time. So I'm just going to get right into it and bring him in so our listeners can learn more about Eric Heipel, the owner of Heartland Painting located in central Minnesota. Good morning, Eric, and thanks for joining us on From Ladder to Legacy.
Good morning, Tom, Tara. Great to be with you too.
Awesome. So Eric, now where are you right now? Are you in Wisconsin or Minnesota at the moment?
So right now I'm sitting on the south shore of Lake Superior. Well, not on the shore. I'm in a little coffee shop here. So if there's some noise in the background, that's what that's all about. But yeah, so that's part of a little bit of a unique living situation that I've got. We can talk more about later if you want to. But yes, I'm in Wisconsin. But normally Heartland Painting operates in central Minnesota, down toward the metro of the Twin Cities.
Right. Yeah, if I remember correctly, you're centered out of St. Cloud, and then you cover all the way down into the northern suburbs of Minneapolis. Do you go further than that now?
Yeah, our territory in the metro continues to expand our footprint. So but we are certainly a little bit more in the northern suburbs.
Certainly makes sense. And Eric, let's talk a little bit about the beginning of your career in painting. What got you into painting in the first place, and how long have you been in the business?
Yeah, so we started the company back in 2013. I was part of a national franchise, and my background was in Christian ministry. So I worked in Christian camping for about 14 years before I got into painting. It just there was a point in my career where I saw the need for, as my young family was starting to grow, the opportunity to earn a little bit better living. And I was just at a point where it was time to do something different. And as I explored other options, it just seemed like small business ownership and a painting franchise made sense. I'm a pretty simple guy, and I think painting is a relatively simple business for people that to get into that have a little bit more of a business mindset.
Yeah, certainly. We talk about the fact that niches are riches, and when you look at the trades in general, focusing on one, and painting is one that I think is, like you said, it's fairly focused. It's a focused trade. If you think about general contracting, there's a lot of moving parts, and I think
big learning curve.
Right. And one thing I love about painting, obviously, is it's a little narrower focus for sure. So, so when you got rolling with the painting business in central Minnesota, tell us a little bit about the first big project that you had. What do you remember most about your first big project?
Yeah, the first project I think that was a really big one was one of my first ones, and it was super memorable because it was for my pastor, and he had a rental house, and this is just a classic experience, classic entry into the business. But the painter I hired, bottom line, he just was not capable to do the job. So I remember Annie and I throwing all of our painting tools in the truck. The idea wasn't that I was supposed to paint. I was supposed to be the business owner. And we worked over there. And I just remember showing up to the house that this guy, our pastor, had renters that were going to be coming in that next morning. And there was no way this guy was going to finish. And so we worked there till 2:00 in the morning. I just remember painting trim, and the sweat was just pouring off of my brow, onto the floor. And I was probably hyperventilating. And I was just thinking, what in the world have I done? So we finally at 2:00 in the morning, we got finished. But that was my intro, early on to a large project in this industry. And thankfully it did get better from there, but certainly not without its struggles.
Did you have some second thoughts at that moment?
Yeah, I had second thoughts probably, every day for the first year. And then I think the second thoughts, they just keep getting less and less as time goes on until, at some point you start having fun. But yeah, the first year is a challenge for sure.
Looking back as someone who came from totally outside of the trades industry, like you said, in Christian ministries, tell me a little bit about what now that you can look back on it, What in your background has helped you be successful as a paint business owner? What are some of the
Hmm.
things that you draw on still?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've thought about that a lot. I think again in Christian ministry, it was always guest or customer focused. It was Christian camping, Christian retreat center. I ran the business side of the operation, so I was familiar with a lot of, again, it was the operations, the guest services, but it was ultimately a heart for people, and that's really transferred over because I mean I think my insight into success in this business is when we take really good care of our people, when we provide a positive, uplifting place for our painters, our staff, and then obviously taking care of them is going to take care of the customer. That really takes care of the customer, but certainly a focus on making customers happy. And it's not all about the bottom line, having a long term, just a positive view of running a business of integrity that does right by people. I think that's been an important foundation.
Yeah, and I think that shows in you have a pretty strong Google presence, Google review presence. That means you're taking care of those customers. I know in the time I've known you, that really comes through. Your valuing of your staff and people and relationships. I think is something that definitely goes through your culture. Um, you know, I want to kind of think about like, okay, if you think about where we're at now, what do you think what's your volume going to finish up in 2025 right now, Eric? Where do you think you're going to land?
Yeah, I think we'll be a little over 2 million.
Great. Yeah, I mean, which, it's, when we talk about scaling, there are a lot of folks out there that don't ever touch the million place. And you've, obviously been able to grow your business even further. Going back to those early years, what were some of the things you came into it wanting to be a business owner? Some of our interviewees, some of our members started out more on the latter, but you came in saying, I'm going to be the owner, I'm going to be a paint business owner, but yet you still had to learn some lessons, I think, along the way in order to grow and scale. What were some of the turning points that helped you be able to grow this business into something that's able to scale and grow into the multi-million-dollar range as you are now?
Yeah, I think again, I think it comes back to people, and to those key hires early on. And I guess my pattern as I look back has been to hire to the parts of the business that I didn't want to do, or that I didn't feel particularly, that were
Right.
draining to me, or I didn't feel particularly good at. Of course, you wear all the hats in the beginning, but pretty soon, you're like, geez, I really could use some admin and marketing help. And I think
Right.
that's a great place to start, because that's very affordable. They're important tasks, but they're $15 an hour tasks, or they're $20 an hour tasks.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, bringing on my first admin person who started at 5 or 10 hours, and after a few years, she was a full-time person, and
Yeah.
then shedding, some sales responsibilities,
Right.
and then finally hiring my first full-time project manager. So just those key hires. And as I look back too, um, what has helped me scale has also, maybe hires that didn't work out as well, or people that I didn't transition along as
Right.
quickly as I should have. Those were also things, as I look back, that held me back. So either way, it comes back to surrounding yourself, I think, with really great people.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Um, you mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast a little bit about your unique living situation, and one of the things we talk about when we're scaling the business is that it gives you flexibility. That I think one of the things, and I think you and I've talked about this in the past, and that's the idea that can you take 3 weeks off? Could you take 21 days off and be completely out of pocket and still and have your business run without you?
Hmm.
And I think that's an important piece, but that flexibility, especially you're managing growing a young family, but I think you mentioned you're in Wisconsin, and I think you mentioned a unique situation, and the business is affording you to be able to do some important things for your family. Tell us a little bit about what's going on and how you
Sure.
manage through that.
Yeah. Well, back when we all remember when COVID started back in March of 2020, or February of 2020. At that time, my in-laws, my mother and father-in-law, were in an assisted living facility in the Twin Cities. And we saw what was happening with those facilities, how they were being locked down. And so we took George and Mary up to northern Wisconsin, where they had a seasonal home, and my wife took over their care full time. So I became a commuter. So we're northern Wisconsin, where we are here in Ashland, is about 3.5 hours from St. Cloud. So I became a commuter, and I developed this lifestyle of on Tuesday morning driving back to St. Cloud early, and then staying at our little hobby farm back in central Minnesota for a couple of nights. Feed the cat, dust the cobwebs, maybe water the plants, and then obviously check in with my crews, have crew leader meetings, and that sort of thing. And then on Thursday night, would come back to northern Wisconsin. So I essentially have been a remote worker for 3/4 of the week for the last 5 years. And the great team I have, the solid leadership that I have in place, has really enabled that, and it's been very freeing. Certainly, it's not something I would have ever anticipated doing, but nonetheless, here we are.
Yeah, and it's one of the benefits, and one of the great things that owning a business helps us do is have those have that kind of flexibility and income. So, and in that 5 years, your business has grown, right? You've been able to grow the business even though you're
Yep.
100% on that moment. Was there anything about that? Were there some bumpy parts, or I know you had some great people working for you, and that definitely helped that transition. But any lessons you learned being kind of that remote leader? Anything you would share with other people who might be thinking about that or in that same situation?
Yeah, no, that's an interest. I mean, I think as I look back, the one thing that I haven't done a really good job of until the last couple of years is staying engaged with my crew leaders. So I don't really have, I still wear all the departmental head hats in the company. So production, I own that hat. I'm like the department leader. Marketing and sales, same with admin and finance. So I think my tendency is to delegate a little bit too quickly. And I think over the years, I've suffered a little bit from that. But in recent years, I've made it a point to meet with my crew leaders once a week. And that has been, I don't want to call it a game changer and overstate it, but it's been really, really valuable. I think it's been valuable for them. One of the complaints my team has always had is, Eric, we never see you on job sites. And actually, they still never see me on job sites. But that once a week connection with my crew leaders and my salespeople has been a really important part, I think, on building the team, fostering good communication. And I mean, who knows if being remote has had anything to do with that, but I think it has been. It's like I have no connection otherwise, so I need to have one point where I see these guys every week.
It's incredibly important. We talk about strategic owner visibility. Where do you put yourself into the business and making sure that you're having that leadership impact that's, and that you're nurturing the culture you want, because it's really that really moves the business along.
Absolutely. Yep.
Speaking of leadership, what challenge or what challenge has tested your leadership the most over the course of the last 12 years you've been in business?
Well, again, we keep talking about people. It's a people business, and certainly managing the different personalities it's rewarding and it's fun, but it's also the biggest challenge. And there are a lot of, we've had a lot of characters over the years. I think managing myself is part of it too, because one of my weaknesses so we talked about how, that my focus on caring for people is important. The flip side of that is a difficulty that I've had in firing people. It takes me a long time to fire people, and you know that about me, Tara. And so I think moving along some people, for example, had for years had crew leaders that, everybody told me, including yourself, that Eric, I think you've got the wrong crew leaders. Like, we really struggled with budgets. They were nice guys. We are in such a different situation this year. And I'd like to say it was all because I suddenly found the courage to fire people and move them along. Honestly, the turnover we experienced a year ago was there was some accountability on my part, but it was just kind of time for some people to leave, and they left of their own accord in some cases. But But yeah, that part in firing, we've all heard the adage, hire slow, fire fast. Well, I've always kind of had it flipped. And so I mean, I'm continuing to learn, but that's one of the things this year that I was just really committed to, was a strong source of, strong sense of accountability within our company, and moving people along that were not a good fit. I wish I would have done, taken those actions a lot sooner.
Eric, you're talking about crew leads being so important. And one thing I've seen, over my time in not just this industry, but the trades in general, and most businesses, I think, having strong individuals that are on, close to the front line is really important. I think especially with the painting business, when we look at, the most profitable companies I see, those strong crew leads, they're the ones that really give the customer service. They make sure we're on budget. I know I can't speak to it enough. It looks like you're experiencing the same thing. It's speaking of your profitability now with this turnover and you spending more time with your crew leaders. Are you seeing an increased gross profit in your business?
Absolutely. Yeah. I was never over 50% leading. I think last year I was at 45, 46%. I'm at 53 this year. So it's been, and my guys are killing budgets. So we have a really strong bonus program. So my crew leaders are averaging well north of $40 an hour in their compensation. So they're happy. They take great care of our clients. And obviously I'm happy too, because gross profits are strong. So
yeah. So they're self-liquidating on that. I mean,
absolutely.
An hour, but you're
I mean, it's
more profitable than you've ever been.
Yeah. It's it's ironic when you can pay people more and have more profit at the end of the day. And it's all about their skills as a crew leader. And obviously you have to have a structure that helps A players succeed and be rewarded for their hard work and talent.
Yeah. Interestingly, I know you're a very long-term member of APPC. I think you've been in APPC almost as long.
I'm like practically a founding member.
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I know about you, I mean, with that, and I know you also attended quite a few PCA events and such. So, obviously you're somebody who is constantly self-educating, right? You're trying to improve. But talk just since with the APPC, tell me a little bit about what are some of the things the APPC has impacted in your business over these years?
Sure. Well, I joined APPC because even as a franchise owner, there were definitely gaps in education and in best practices and in tools that were available, particularly in the area of marketing, but also a number of other business systems. So that's why I joined APPC. I found Brandon, and I was, I got his materials, and then I was like, that summit I got to be there. So I was the first one, and I haven't missed one since. And so, yeah, that all of my associations with all the other members of the Academy have just really been important. Those friendships that have developed. And in very quick order, that became much more valuable to me just from the standpoint of helping me build my business than being part of a franchise.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing I say, when we think about, and that kind of leads to legacy, right? You're coming into your 13th year in business. You're, continuing to grow. Let's talk a little bit about what's next. What does legacy mean to you, and what's in the future for Eric and Heartland Paintings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mindset about legacy, obviously, it has definitely undergone a transformation. I think early on as a business owner, the focus is more about yourself and providing for your family and providing for kids. I don't know that I'm going to ever have. So what legacy does not mean is that I'm anticipating having one of my kids take over. I don't think that's going to be possible. But at some point I'll transition out of the business. I'm not sure what that would look like. And there's going to be some value there that is going to be part of my family's financial security. So that obviously, I'm sure most business owners think in those terms. What's been interesting the last number of years is seeing how my impact has been, has encouraged my people. So just what is my role as the business owner in the lives of my people, of my painters, of my staff, and seeing them develop as humans, seeing them develop in leadership skills, and just in building up a positive environment that they want to come, they enjoy what they're doing, they enjoy the team of people that they work with. And one of the things, honestly, that I've implemented this year is when we get together as a company, I lead my company in a prayer. And that may sound like not a big deal, but I mean, to me, it was a big deal that my Christian faith is expressed to them, and that they know they've got a boss who cares about them, who prays for them, and that we're a company that's, we're not a Christian company, but we're guided by a commitment to truth and to integrity, and to again, just I'm gonna bring my people to God in prayer, and I think that's been very rewarding. So again, it's transition from the money and the financial security to helping build people's lives, and that's been fun.
It's very rewarding, and I think talking to business owners, one of the things is it's your business, and you want to create and craft a culture that is something you're proud of, and that aligns with your
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't like, my goal is not to be the biggest, but like our team, what we recite once a month when we're together is that like we want to be the best. We want to have the best reputation and the best impact in the community in a positive way. So I know that to me is super cool. That's what the brand is that I want to achieve.
Yeah, absolutely. That would lead right into a great question of, what are you most proud of on your business journey so far?
I think there's a lot of different ways to answer a question like that. I mean, I am proud that I have learned so much. I do like to learn. I like to get advice and input from other people. I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts lately. And so, yeah, just seeing my own growth as a person and my journey toward, I mean, I think I'm a better person today than I was before, and business ownership has knocked off some rough edges for sure, and educated me and helped me develop skills that I would not have had. So that's been super exciting. And again, the people seeing my ability to be a positive force in the lives of other people, which helps build the community. And certainly, being able to do things coming out of the nonprofit world, it was only opportunity to do more financially, in terms of our family and what we could do, travel and different things. So that's been rewarding as well. So it's been a fun, but it's certainly challenging, but it's been a fun journey.
Well, great. Well, thinking back to the beginning, what's one piece of advice you'd give to painters who are just starting out on this journey?
Yeah, well, I think again, surrounding yourself with fellow contractors, with fellow the brotherhood, sisterhood of painting contractor owners, professional contractors, that no question has been invaluable. The friendships, I can pick up the phone and there's 10 people I can call, 20 people. Every one of them has something to contribute in a different way, something that they've learned, something that they're really good at. Just surrounding yourself with best practices and education to help you keep getting better every day. I'm part of a little text group, and the name of the group is 1% Better, and that's the idea, is that every day can we share something with one another that will help us grow by 1% every single day. And that mindset is really cool. And if we do that, and even if we get halfway there, 0.5% better every day, that's really significant growth, and that's valuable.
Yeah, that's incredible growth. And it's a statement to the fact that growth doesn't happen, or it can happen in big leaps, but the most important growth is the growth that happens every day. And if you're working a little bit every day to get better, one day you look back and realize, wow, I've come a long way in this journey, and it's amazing.
For sure.
Eric, you've built an amazing business. We very much appreciate you getting on and sharing the story. I hope your story inspires, other folks out there to continue to grow and build and grind through what it takes to run a business in this environment, and we appreciate it. And I know Tom wants to take us out with one last question, so I'm going to pass the baton over to Tom and let him finish up here. So.
Just an awesome story, Eric. Thanks again as Tara said, for being with us. I loved when you were talking about how you had the evolution from when you started to today with your team, and you think about as you went and developed the tools and you continued to learn and build and we've those of us a little longer in the tooth like I am, we've had an evolution in our career. I started when I got out of the service, and it was for the money because I wanted to provide better for my family. But as time went on, the money became less and less important. There was a bigger thing. And I had a mentor tell me once, he said, look, if you really, really want to be successful, you got to have great communication skills. So you got to have a strategic vision, but he said, you got to empower your employees. And it sounds like, you got all that in place. And I loved it when you were talking about your crew leaders and how, they're responding. And that is the way that it works. You're making more money, but they are too, because we're all going after the same thing. That as a leader, I think what you do to lead your team, they have to believe in the person that they're following. And I think you set up just a great dynamic. That's awesome. So I want to kind of wrap us up today. Is if your story were a painting, and say it was put on a wall, or maybe one of those beautiful rooftops of a barn up there in central Minnesota, what would it say?
Well, first, Tom, I want to clarify that not all barns in Minnesota are beautiful. In fact, because it was founded by a bunch of Swedes, poor Swedes, and so most of them are machine sheds, quite honestly. But anyway, no, I understand the question. Yeah, so what would that say? Well, it's a legacy of personal growth, challenge, commitment to family, commitment to people. That's the kind of legacy that I want to have. That I cared for people, cared for my family, tried to make a positive impact in the community. I guess it's not real complicated or poignant, but I guess that's what comes to mind.
Well, thanks for taking time to be with us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.